For a moment, a commotion spread through the crowd. Felix Miller had just prostrated before Dustin, and now Chad Miller followed suit. What was going on? Was this what they called like father, like son? Though they didn't exactly know what had happened, anyone could tell that the Charging Tiger Gang was in trouble. They were sure the handsome young man possessed considerable influence. "I was wrong, Mr. Rhys. It's all my fault. I failed to recognize you, and I underestimated you. Please don't take my wrongdoings to heart. I hope you can find it in you to forgive me." Chad apologized as he slapped himself repeatedly. With each slap, a loud, clear smacking sound echoed, showing just how hard he was slapping himself. In no time, he quickly made up for the remaining 20 to 30 slaps that Dustin had left out. "Please get things right. The person you should be apologizing to isn't me," Dustin said impassively. Chad seemed caught off guard initially, but he quickly caught on and went over to Edmund and Abigail. Then, he kneeled and said, "I am truly sorry, this is all my fault. I beg for your forgiveness. I will compensate you 10 times for all your losses." "Ha! Who wants your filthy money?" Abigail turned away huffily, not wanting to bother herself with the likes of him. "What are you doing, Mr. Miller? Please don't kneel to us." Edmund was so frightened that he quickly reached out his hand, signaling for Chad to stand up. "If you don't forgive me, I will keep kneeling until you do." Chad seemed bent on receiving their forgiveness. All right, we forgive you. You're forgiven. Please, do kneel any longer." Edmund nodded. Furiously, obviously overwhelmed by Chad's behavior. Chad then turned around to glance at Dustin. Only when he saw that Dustin gave him no reaction did he slowly straighten up. "Mr. Rhys, your magnanimity is truly admirable. You are a role model for people like us." Felix quickly complimented him when he saw that the critical situation had been averted. "Pay up first," Dustin piped up. Yes. Right away." Without a moment's hesitation, Felix immediately wrote a check for $20 million check and handed it to Edmund. It's too much." Edmund dared not take the money. "What do you mean it's too much? He owes it to us." Abigail didn't waste any time and snatched the check from his hands, stashing it safely away in her pocket. "Mr. Rhys, I've paid them." Felix conjured up the brightest smile he could manage. "Now that you've paid them, let's talk business," Dustin continued. "From what I've heard, the Charging Tiger Gang is pretty powerful and possesses great influence in the city's northern region." "I wouldn't say we've got great influence. We're just doing okay, I guess. Of course, we're nothing compared to you, Mr. Rhys." Felix smiled humbly. "Don't give me that. I know your background pretty well," Dustin said. "Truth be told, the Flame Dragon Gang is looking to expand, so we're recruiting talented individuals to join us. Would you be interested in joining?" "Join the Flame Dragon Gang?" Felix was taken aback, and it took him quite a while to react. He was the leader of the Charging Tiger Gang, so how could he possibly join the Flame Dragon Gang? "If you join us, I'll make you the vice leader. You'll be on par with Nelson Horst." "And what about my Charging Tiger Gang?" An uneasy feeling washed over Felix. "Easy, it'll be absorbed into the Flame Dragon Gang." Dustin dropped a bomb. "What?" Felix was shocked. He thought Dustin had just mentioned it as a passing comment. Who would have thought that he meant what he said and had actually intended to absorb the entire Charging Tiger Gang? Wasn't that too much? "What's the matter? You don't want to?" Dustin raised an eyebrow. "Well," Felix stuttered. Everyone knew that it was always better to hold an important position in a relatively smaller setting rather than getting a less influential role in a larger, more prominent setting. As the current leader of the Charging Tiger Gang, he had absolute control over every one of his members. It was a no-brainer that he wouldn't want to be demoted to vice leader of the Flame Dragon Gang. "If you don't want to, I won't force you." When Felix heard that, he heaved a sigh of relief. But Dustin's next words hit him like a bolt of lightning. "I've always been someone who wins others over with my capabilities. I won't force myself on anyone." This why the previous leader of the Flame Dragon Gang, Harry Hall, chose to step back. "So, what do you think? Do you think he made the right move?" Dustin smiled. Felix was frozen with fear when he saw the devilish smile on Dustin's face. Cold sweat broke out all over him. While others might not know how Harry Hall, the previous leader of the Flame Dragon Gang, had died, Felix knew very well why. It was precisely this person standing before him who had killed Harry off to take his place. His talk about winning people over with his capabilities. If anything, that was a blatant threat. If Felix didn't comply, he might very well end up just like Harry Hall. "All right, you may leave now. Till we meet again." Dustin smiled meaningfully, sending panic through Felix. He knew that he was every part a mortal, just as Harry Hall was. If he really turned Dustin down, he might not live to see the next sunrise. "Mr. Rhys, it would be my honor to join the Flame Dragon Gang. If you would have us, I, Felix Miller, will gladly lead all my members in the Charging Tiger Gang to devote ourselves to the Flame Dragon Gang," Felix declared, putting on a righteous front. "Please don't feel pressured, Mr. Miller. I don't like to coerce others." Dustin shook his head. "This is no coercion. I've long heard of your great reputation, Mr. Rhys, and I greatly admire you. Now that I've had the honor of meeting you, I'm completely won over by your character. Please bestow upon me the honor, sir." Felix cried out passionately. "Are you sure you wish to join the Flame Dragon Gang?" Dustin asked again. "Of course I'm sure. I believe that under your leadership, Mr. Rhys, the Flame Dragon Gang will surpass all others and become the most powerful gang." Felix praised excessively. "Very well, from now on, you'll be the vice leader of the Flame Dragon Gang. You'll still have control over the members who were previously part of the Charging Tiger Gang, and all your turf will remain yours," Dustin announced. "Thank you for allowing me this honor, Mr. Rhys," Felix exclaimed with elation. His biggest concern was losing his authority when he joined the Flame Dragon Gang. But since that hadn't changed, and only his title was different, he seemed to have suffered no loss at all. Before this encounter, Felix had a certain aversion toward Dustin, but now, all he felt was admiration. Dustin was powerful and knew how to make things work in his favor. He was also courageous, and most importantly, Felix saw immense potential in him. It was not a bad idea to serve someone like that. "All right, you go ahead and go to the Flame Dragon Gang and meet up with Nelson Horst." Dustin dismissed him with a wave. "Yes, sir," Felix answered and quickly left with his men. As he watched them leave, Dustin fell into deep thought. He knew Felix would have objections, but he had his ways of pursuing him to join willingly. His target wasn't just the Charging Tiger Gang but also the other two major gangs. Simply put, he wanted to merge the four major gangs in order to form new rules and create an orderly system. Currently, the four major gangs had their own interests at heart and would often get into gang fights with each other. In the eyes of truly powerful people, they seemed trivial and inconsequential, as they had no sense of cooperation. However, once they were merged, they would become an unbelievably formidable power, even surpassing that of the Fabulous Five. Gaining control over the four major gangs would make him the king of the underworld in Millsburg. Just then, the sound of a car honking filled the air. Dustin turned around to see a silver Bentley slowly pulling over by the side of the road. As the door opened, an exquisite lady with a perfect figure stepped out of the car and slowly approached them. It was Natasha. She was dressed in a burgundy-red overcoat, a black turtleneck top, and a pair of Hermes boots. She looked stylish and elegant, exuding an air of nobility. "Why are you here, Natasha?" Dustin's eyes lit up. Despite being familiar with her, he couldn't help but be in awe of her beauty every time he saw her. "I heard Mr. Robinson ran into some trouble, so I came to check on things. Didn't expect to find you here already." Natasha smiled. "Ms. Natasha,